morning. So I'm surprised so many people could manage in the first track. Congratulations. Good seminar, really good. My name is Thomas Fischer. I'm either building, destroying really large VPN networks, or otherwise I'm playing with cards or with the canvas and trying to understand how a car works. And sometime in the last 20 years, I've fallen into a small rabbit hole. And that's the reason I'm here now. Also, the great thing is we have 20 years of anniversary from the Confidence. Also, the first real published car hack was also 2005, also in June. And also another date which is important, 2005, was the first Arduino was created in 2005. So a lot of things which we use today to build our car hacking portfolio was created in 2005. So I want to present a few of the people, a few of the tools, a bit of the hardware, some papers, and a few of the books, which I think we should mention when it comes about car hacking. Before we start first, the great thing is car hacking is relatively easy because it's a relatively closed environment which you have relative safe access. Every car needs to have access to the OBD, the diagnostics port, because it's from the regulation. We need it to check for emissions, and even the EV has normally an access port. Part of this is it's connected to the canvas, and this also we will come a bit later. Yesterday we had a workshop which completely only focused on the canvas, so I think this builds perfectly on it. I want to present a bit a mixture of these three parts I was showing to you. I did exclude two things. I did exclude car PCs. This was especially in the beginning of the 2000s. It was a really, really hot topic. So, for example, there was even a Windows CE version which was inside of the car, and a lot of hackers used their knowledge about Windows and used this. This I excluded. Also, I excluded mechanical hacks because otherwise I think we should start not 2005, we start 1902 or 1910 or something like this, because I think as long as someone gave someone else a car, for sure someone misplaced a screwdriver or something and wanted to make it faster or did want to do something with it. So, as I told you before, 2005 also was the Arduino. This was a picture of the first Arduino. Compared to today, the Arduino Uno is still here, but we see that a lot of the connectors we had at this time are not there anymore. So the voltage regulator, for example, is not there anymore. It's just a small IC, or they changed it in a different way. Also, a lot of those chips are now in SMD. Also, you see that it's had a serial port. Today, obviously, it's USB. Who of you did have one of the Arduinos? Doesn't matter what for. All right. So I would say a Ford or something if we say optimistic. So for the other one, I really recommend you. At the moment, the clone on I don't know, Amazon or so is around 10 euro. So it's really, really amazing just to get your hands on it, and even just to see on the first hardware does something, even if it's just a blink or something, it's a good feeling. So now we're coming back to the real start of the presentation. This was the lab from the first car hacking chip creation, basically. Those were students, and together with their professor, they created a clone of a chip, and they could crack the really weak encryption. And they published this also in 2005. So the presentation on the conference was in June. In January, the paper was published. To be honest, it does not really look so much different than a lot of laboratories for car hacker today. So, a second one, this was also the reason I started with car hacking, was in 2009. So between 2005 and 2009, there were a few different hacks, but I did not see one where I say, okay, this is something which is so exceptional that I want to present here. Still, if you're interested, there are also a few of them. This is Jack Richard. No. All right. Jack Richard, he made EV conversion tools, and also he had a workshop for it. EV conversion means they take a normal petrol car, rip out the engine, and they place batteries. The yellow stuff on the left side of the motor there, and on the right side, those are the batteries. They were lead-acid batteries, like the normal starter batteries we used at this time, not like modern batteries like from a Tesla or something like this. So the car was, I think they got a lot of weight to the battery, but still, I don't know how many horsepower it had. It was so much more with the electric conversion, so it really performed really great. The yellow car on the left down, this was also, this was, I would say, from the second generation. This was 1 or 2 years later, and there already he had the drivetrain from a Tesla and the batteries from a wrecked Tesla, and this works extremely cool. So there is a video where you see it just accelerates, and you see that behind the gate just opens, just flaps open from the, it can't hold it. So I recommend really look for this and look for the video. It really looks cool. Another thing, what he did was he created this one. This is basically an Arduino with a fixed CAN interface onto it. It's on the image on the right side. And do you have any idea why, for EV conversion, you want to have an Arduino with a CAN connection? All right, so the thing is, if you rip out the engine, you still have a lot of systems you want to have running. So for example, a climate control. You don't want to be sweaty in the summer in California in your electric car. Obviously, this has to work. But on the other hand, all of this is, does need information back from the motor. So what I did, he created a script on this one, and he just recorded how the motor, the engine at this time, so the petrol engine, was just running. And it was just running fine. He recorded it, and he always replied then just this message with, everything is fine, I'm working, everything is fine. And so all the normal systems are just work, like it would never happen to get rid of his motor. We come a bit later to Zavican. This is closely related to this one. So this was also the start, and also this was one of the relatively soon really cheap hardware. So it cost around 100 euro, which was, compared to everything else you had before, relatively cheap. So also, car technology is relatively old technology when you look at it on a really deep level. So the CAN bus, the protocol, was invented by Bosch in the end of the 80s. So, and it did not really change a lot. There were 2 extensions, but the protocol itself was the same. Now on top you have a bit different levels, but still it is really easy to understand. Also, EVTV is the YouTube channel from Jack Richards. Sadly, he died, but his partner and his team lives on, and they are working like at the beginning. So, for example, you can buy parts from wrecked Teslas. So this is in the middle. So if you want to order a battery or something and you don't know where to get it, this is a good step. But the problem is, at the moment, it's in America, and we don't really know how we get stuff and if we get stuff from there. So now we are coming to 2010. This is a scientific paper, which I also found while researching here for the talk. The cool thing is, it's from 2010, and already it shows a lot of the flaws from the protocol itself. And just to prove it, they created their own software, which you can see in the middle. And even they created their own attack GUI, which I find relatively impressive for a scientific research team. So, and they published a paper, which is still there, and I would say also it's really still active. What I did was, they made it a bit like what I said here with this one. And they shown how to record canvas packets, and they shown how to inject them, and this really works, really cool. Why this works also, there is a large contrast between normal networks. So a normal network, you have a sender and a receiver. So normally you know, okay, who sends something and who wants to receive it. In contrast, the CAN bus, it's a protocol which is message-based. So this means everyone is just shouting, and in a moment you're a controller or something, and you're interested in getting the message, you are reacting to it. But otherwise, everyone is just shouting, shouting, shouting. And also this makes it necessary that there is a reliable possibility to drop packets, for example, if something happens. So for example, if you have a car accident, you want to deploy it, or you want that your airbag is deployed and not that your seat heating is changing from 2 to 1 or something like this. So there is a hierarchy, and it drops the packets which are with a lower priority, and this works really cool. Now also 2010 there was another paper where they started with relay attacks. The interesting thing is, this is an attack which still works in a lot of cars. Also here I found really amazing how the researcher started to fiddle with their own antennas. They looked how they can make it, and also they really took a lot of care about how to document it. So for example, in the middle you see the car, and you see that the key has a difference between the inside and the outside. So for example, if you're inside of the car, you're basically trusted, so you can start the engine and stuff like this. We're coming back a bit later to this. Also, this is a paper, when it comes to the fundamentals, I really recommend to read this one. It really works good. Now we have 2015, so this was, I think, the most important year for car hacking at the moment. A lot of projects were going in 2015, and also car hacking got a lot of media attention. For example, there was Walasek and Miller. They were a security researcher, and they were playing with a Wired reporter, and playing, we can really mean it like this. So the reporter was driving, and they were stopping the car from remote. So he was really, look the video. It is really cool. Also, what we could see in this one is basically the foundation for what later Comma AI will build upon. So they had influence on the car telemetry from the outside, over the internet. okay, yes, of course, there were problems with the OnStar. This was the media center, which was, today we would say Stellantis, but it was at this time in the Jeep, and it was in a few different other companies. Also, what we can see in the automotive sector, a lot of the components are shared with a lot of manufacturers. So for example, if you have one head unit, so the media center, the possibility that a lot of different car companies also use the same are really high. So if there is a flaw in one, it can be that the same flaw is over an extension period from maybe 10, 20, 30 years or something like this, which from a research perspective makes it really interesting. From an end user perspective, it makes it a horrible scenario that someone plays with your entertainment system. I said it was the base for AI. George Hotz, this was a hacker, and he was the first who, I think it was the PlayStation 1, which lost the encryption key thanks to his help. And later also he went into the rabbit hole of the automotive research, and now he builds his own company on it, and the company is AI, and you can order a full self-driving kit basically. What you see on the image, this was the first idea, prototype, template, however you want to call it. You needed even your own mobile, so this was clipped into the mirror from the car. There was a smartphone, an Android smartphone inside, and it used the camera from the smartphone, and it was connected to the OBD port, and it used the driving assistance features of the car. So this is also something he does up till today. So the difference is that the driving assistance features are getting better and better. So now if I have the possibility to use lane assistant from a more modern car, it does not feel as wacky as in an old, I mean, maybe you sat in a, I don't know, old Volkswagen from 2002, 2003 or something with lane assist, and it was, how should I say, really digital, and it was horrible to feel the experience, and this couldn't do any magic, of course. If the system is like this, it just can use it. But at the moment, it's getting super, super smooth. Also, if you want to know how should I say, reliable or how trustworthy I think your car is, look at the list. Those are, from a research perspective, the more interesting cars. But from an end-user perspective, maybe the cars where there could happen more than on the other one, because they allow access to driving assistant features and stuff like this. Also, OpenPilot is the project which uses the software in addition to AI. AI is the hardware, and it's two parts. I only have the old one. This is the Panda. This was the first plug of it. It was just connected to the OBD port, has a USB on the other side, and this goes into the AI. The cool thing with this one, you could also connect it with the smartphone, and you could collect your data. And so a lot of driving data was already recorded and used. So basically the same what Tesla does with let us record all the drives, and we use it to train our system. This also they did already from the start. So this is also a cool way to get into car hacking. Now we came also to one of the things which were a bit under my radar. The cool thing on CrunchTrack was it was super, super, super tiny, and already it has the GPS included. So this is this weird thing on the right. So this is how a GPS antenna looks if you buy it as electronic components. Of course, in your smartphone, this one is much smaller, but this works really good. Also, this was the possibility to get some open source hardware, especially for car hacking. which is also cool. So the idea from them was to use it to, I don't know, build your own, something like TomTom, some navigation software or something, use your notebook to navigate or stuff like this. This was, I would say, one of the first promising ways to get car hacker into the car. Then we have 2016. Also, I think when it comes to the tools, the Machina M2 made the biggest change. I love to use it today still. It's this one, and this one. So, sorry, tiny hardware. Also, it's an OBD port on the one side. On the other side, it's Arduino board. And on the top side, it has two CAN interfaces. It has a LIN-bus interface, which is a simplified CAN interface. So for example, for doors or something for the going with the mirrors or something like this, the LIN protocol is just easier. It's a bit simplified. It was in two versions. It was like this in an OBD port. This was not intended for permanent use. It is awesome just to use it to record data. So, and the second possibility is this one. It's just a second layer, the top layer, and it has two connectors on both sides. And there was a wire set onto it, and the idea was to cut the two wires for your CAN bus and put it between in the middle, and it was you can use it to reply stuff. So as we could see in the beginning, it was the CAN just accepts the messages as long as they have the right format and the ECU, so the control computer, is reachable from this part of the network. This is the exception. So, for example, some manufacturers, they really protect the part where the engine, the transmission is, and stuff like this. And the other one, they are more relaxed. So, if you are a security researcher, I can recommend you the most Japanese cars because it's the best way to get a relatively good access to it. Also, what I told you before with the OBD port, it is a standard, so you can see on the right side, I would say more than 90% of the cars that we have now on the road are possible to interact with, which is cool. But also it means that you have to be, how should I say, careful with who can go inside of your car. Because still we are limited on the car, but also we come a bit later to it. Also, there was an extension to this one. On the top, there are two rows, and you connect different modules to it. And so, for example, you can have ESP32, which is an amazing device, which allows with Bluetooth, with Wi-Fi and stuff like this. So this is really made a lot of difference because now you didn't have to use the cable directly connected to the Machina. You just could go over the Wi-Fi, which is really, really, really cool. Also, you can just program it with the Arduino interface, but you have to install a few of the libraries. So, yeah, but it works really good. The Machina, it started as a Kickstarter. If you want to order from them, the problem is a lot of times they are out of stock. So be a bit of patient, or the newer ones, they are, I think, more available. I'm not sure, P0 or something, they changed the naming convention a tiny bit. Also, what you see on the right diagram, the newer cars, they always have the CAN bus, the red. Also, you see the yellow line, which means this is the LIN bus. This is the simplified version of the CAN bus. And you see everything between 2004 and 2008. There were a lot of different protocols before. So, for example, I don't know, I think Ford had their own, and what was it? There were 3-4 companies which had their own protocols, but luckily they are not in use or not so much in use anymore. Big recommendation. This one. It's from 2016 and it did not lose anything. Starting with the negative part, I don't really like it that it starts with going with the threat models. I would prefer to have a systematic approach. Other than that, it's really amazing. And to be honest, this was just the first chapter which made the start for me a bit not so comfortable. Everything else is really amazing. So, and especially it has differences, it had the protocols, it had a good explanation about a lot of the tools you can use, so recommendations still today. Also there was a package with the Machina M2, this one and this one, as Kickstarter, and this was, I think, the entry point for a lot of security researcher to go into car hacking. Zavican. I said before, the Jack Richard, they were really active in debugging the car, reverse engineering, stuff like this. Also, he partnered with Colin Skinner, and he is the software guy behind them, basically. And he wrote Zavican. This is, it's an editor, it's a fuzzer, it's injector. So on the right screenshot, you see that it's fuzzing some messages. Also, it's open source. Get your hands on it. It really is well worth it. On the left side, you see just a screenshot also how it looks if there are CAN data inside. In the first line, you see the number of the message. Then you see the header of the message. Also, there is the systematic of it, so you can already see just based on the beginning what it should do, basically, and later it has the data of it. In the lower right part, if you start to play with CAN data, I think this is the most important part, because to filter what you don't want to see is the more complicated part. So you get a lot of data. If you just sniff all the data from your car, even if you just started, there can be a lot of noise. And here are the messages, the header of the messages, and you just can click on it, you can filter it, and yeah. And then you can just focus on only the stuff you want to have. Also, when you have Machina or something like this, you have to check in what format they are, because it's comma-separated values mostly. So don't be afraid to test the different format, because otherwise it just says, okay, it can't work, or I hate it more, it can show it, but it removes part of the data or something like this in a few. 2018 was also, I think, a really big, important date, because it was the first time the DEF CON conference in Las Vegas had their own car village. The car hacking village, it exists still today, and I think it's a really big part of it still. There were competitions, there are a lot of test bench setups, or however you want to call it. For example, on the left, if you have the dashboard of a modern car, everything is still using the CAN bus. So you can also collect the data from the car, you can reply it, and you have it on the screen. Also on the right, the CAN bus is not only limited to the car. So for example, if you have, even Shimano uses the CAN protocol for the electric shifting of the bicycles. So the CAN bus is really in a lot of places where you don't think to it. So for example, if you have, I don't know, in the industrial prison store open with the CAN bus, you have some colliders where the sensors are collecting the data via the canvas. So this is really, really a protocol which is highly in use. 2020, I think this was one of the moments where the hackers got their hand onto, devices which are collecting and replying something over the air. So the Flipper Zero was, it started as a Kickstarter. I think I'm not sure, 2 years later or something. So the Kickstarter were going for a long time, or people had to wait for a long time. Let's say it like this. But nevertheless, now you had a tool which had a nice looking outside. You can really use it as a gaming console for on the road. And by the way, you can just sniff how the garage opens, and you can reply it. So this works really, really good. It's still in, you can sell it, buy it today. So, and there will be, I think, a new version. I think it's Flipper 1, and I think in autumn he will start to present it. Another thing, if this one was too slow or too small or too whatever, the Hack RF1 from Great Scott Gadgets, this is the adult version, I would say, from the Flipper. So this is a software-defined radio which can collect really, really a lot of frequencies. Also, it works together with a lot of open source software packets, so you can use it to debug wireless protocols, and this works really, really cool. With this one and with the Flipper Zero, obviously check what is legal in your jurisdiction. So, yeah. Then I found this one. This is from Intrepid. Intrepid is a manufacturer who is focused on giving hardware and software for car manufacturers. So this is, I would say, nearly the opposite. So they are made their own fuzzing framework for car manufacturers that they also get their hand on tools. They have amazing tool set, but it is sometimes not so easy to get your hands on it because they are relatively expensive, and also the contract is sometimes a bit not so easy to get to it. But nevertheless, I really like that they have also used the internet to create some videos. Also, they show how it works, how they really, allow the people to test their systems. Now I show you the picture of a crashed car. To be honest, the car was not really crashed, it was just damaged. And the weird thing is, the owner came back to his car and he found out that someone was pulling some parts of his car away. And what do you think, why did they do it? Has someone an idea? Bingo. I told you before, Japanese cars are really amazing when it comes to get your hands on directly to the canvas. And so they exactly prepared it. So in the first night, they were just there preparing it, but I don't know, they ran out of time or whatever. And in the second time, the car was gone the next day. And on the right side, there was the security researcher who found out, look, this is the way how they interacted with your car, and congratulations, they could start it from the outside. So this was what I said to you before. We have the different gateways. The different gateways, they connect to different networks. So depending on what messages are allowed to leave this part of this bus, the gateway decides if it transmits it or doesn't. And the problem was in this that it could access directly the main gateway or the main area, and so it just could start it. Now 2024, I really recommend you look at the DEF CON car hacking villages. They have a lot of amazing talks, and it's really, you can find a lot of interesting things. Also, the cool thing is most of the parts and the tools are open source. So the hardware is sometimes a bit nasty, weird, however you want to call it. But this is why I really love these frameworks like, Machina or something like this. The thing is, now with electric vehicles, we have completely new vectors. Now we have vehicle to grid in the first cars. This means that, for example, your house can get information and also power from your car. And the information part is something a lot of people are missing in this conversation. So here they proved that it's possible that you can interact with a special hardware between the car and some connector, and you could inject and you could reply some attack to the car, which is really interesting. But in a petrol car, you didn't have this problem because you don't have a charger. Also, there is a sniffing a reply version of it. So also there's from ERNV, the Troopers conference, there was a cool talk about it. Also this I really can recommend. There it was Thomas Sampinis, and he presented the paper. All right, this is the main thing of my talk. I have tried 2 videos and I'm not sure if they work. I will try if we can run them. Try it. And depending on if they are working, we can go. So I have this one. So really you can see that the car is absolutely no match for the power of this Tesla drivetrain. Surprise. But I think it makes a lot of fun to drive with it. And this was the second conversion from EVTV, which they published also how they interconnected with the motor and with the batteries, how they put it there. And from the outside, it just looks like a really, really, really old car. So, thank you. That's all from my presentation.